Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's workshop where we're diving in on how to supercharge your 401k and your TSP. That's right, how to supercharge your 401k and TSP. And we're going into the details, all in on the challenges right now, us as Americans facing when it comes to retirement, but then also some of the strategies that the wealthy are using today and have been using for decades in order to build wealth, defer taxes, and continue to build a legacy and hand down to their next generation. So that's what we're going to dive into today. So the workshop, the goal is for those who stick around, do have something exciting to pass along to you all. The goal is going about an hour and 15 minutes. We have a great guest. We have my brother Spencer Reed from Heritage IRA, who's going to come in here and share a little bit about the details of self-directed IRAs, the benefits, some of the myths, some strategies that you can leverage. And then we're going to deep dive into one of the top asset classes that you are able to leverage with self-directed retirement accounts. So with no further ado, let us get started. And we do have a few slides to kind of go through and kind of set the topic, set the tone. But really diving in, your TSP and 401k and the new retirement reality that we see across the board. So everything happening tonight is definitely for information purposes only. Nothing conveyed tonight would be considered legal, tax, or financial advice. Please consult with your attorney, CPA, or the financial advisor regarding your specific situation. All right. For those who I've not had the pleasure of meeting. I'm Johnny Lynum, founder of REI Genius, Christian husband, father, Lieutenant Colonel, retired from the Air Force, avid investor and financial advisor. I'm here that I'm fully retired. Been investing in real estate since 2006 when I bought my first property, which was a duplex using my VA loan, and really, it became a passion for me after going through that first transaction and just really understanding and learning the power of investing. And it has ultimately changed my life. Right now, over 115 units in the portfolio, valued over $10 million, primarily apartment complexes. Ranked number 5, Panama City 2020. That was funny. You know, Grant Cardone was ranked number 1 that year in buying acquisitions for apartments in Panama City that year. I authored my book the following year, 2021, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategy, What They Forgot to Teach You at School, available on Amazon, and talked about being a founder of REI Genius. Everything that we're doing in REI Genius, the mission has evolved, but one thing has been clear, is really helping individuals tap into their internal genius, because I'm a true believer everyone has their genius once it's nurtured, fostered, and they have that clarity wrapped around what their focus is on how to build wealth. And that's where we come in with changing lives through real estate. So really ask yourself, why are you here today? You know, really internally ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you about having enough money in retirement? And when we think about retirement, we're not talking about retirement just to, traditionally where you think about in your 60s and 70s, and now you're just kind of going off and, now you're deciding to live your life. But really, what are you looking to achieve? When I look at retirement, is having freedom to live life on your own terms, whether you're able to work and do the job that you want to do, travel with who you want to travel with, spend time with who you want to spend time with. And so, really having a holistic view of retirement and understanding, for me, it was retiring for the rat race, where now I ultimately control my time. I can work a job that is serving others 100% of the time. I can set my schedule and I can work from anywhere. And so, for me, ultimately, it meant time freedom when I started talking about having enough capital in retirement. So that's something for you guys to really think about where you're on this scale, and then really look at the strategies that we're talking about tonight and how you can leverage said strategies to kind of implement and accelerate that journey for yourself. What's going on, Ian? I see we have a couple of people live commenting. Feel free as we're going through the questions to comment. We do see those comments live, and then that way we can make this interactive and valuable for all you guys. With that, the retirement promise is breaking. We all see it when you look out every day. That a lot of times we see the categories on the news, the stats on the news, but you feel it. You feel it when you're going to the grocery store. You feel it when you're going to the mall, to the gas pump, or when you look at your tax statement at the end of the year on how much you're actually having to pay in taxes from your income, when you're looking at how much you're allocating to your retirement, and just the ups and downs of the market. And so with that, 2/3 feel like the retirement dream is unattainable. That there's no way that they're going to retire between 65 and 70. With that, 30%, they're not confident at all that they're going to have enough capital to cover their day-to-day costs for life. And then 1 out of 10 consider winning the lottery as a retirement strategy, which is drastically is a huge problem if you're banking on the lottery as a retirement strategy. And so with that, a lot of people are seeing right now that the system isn't serving them and is broken. And so when you look at a lot of the research, and one of the ones that I really like to look at is Fidelity. They have a large pulse on the market with hundreds of billions of dollars in under management. And so right now, as of second quarter 2025, that the average 401k balance was only $137,800, with the average IRA, so individual retirement account balance, a little bit less than that, 131K. And with that, when you look at why this matters, even though the balances are going up an 8% increase in 1 quarter, many people aren't saving enough. Their savings aren't growing fast enough to beat inflation, their life expectancy, rising costs. And so the gap between what individuals need and what they have is continuing to get larger and larger. And so that goes directly when you start looking at the perception that individuals have right now, that they have a complete lack of confidence. 40% not confident that they're going to have enough income and assets to last during retirement. We know we're all living longer. I think the last stat that I saw was it's a 26% chance if you're 65 today and married that you or your spouse are going to live into your 90s. 26% chance, which that's very likely that one of you guys are going to be around for 90. If you're 65, that means your money has to last another 25 years. And so that is eroding away of the confidence. And when you start looking at the high percentages at some point that someone's going to need long-term care support for some type of illness, and the cost of that service, that more and more that we have to change how we're saving and how we're approaching retirement and how we're leveraging retirement accounts in order to make sure that we have the capital that we need. And of course, we've talked about the challenges, so it's no surprise that the saving gap is massive when you start looking at those who don't have 250,000 in a retirement account. Not even looking at talking about 250,000. When you look at a lot of the polls, 50% of Americans don't even have $1,000 saved in order to address an emergency expense. And so when you look at that and kind of really dive in deeper, that there's a huge problem for a lot of people. And that's one of the things that we really like to focus in on the workshop, are meeting those that are interested in information, that are trying to apply to give you guys the strategies and tools that you need in order to not be a statistic. And so in moving forward with the expected reality, 48% expected to have their retirement accounts below 500K. And the target goal, from looking at the surveys and data out there, that most people view around $1.28, $1.3 million needed to retire comfortably. And when you start looking at different strategies, you're able to achieve that with a lot less when you start looking at how you can take on leverage and how you can look at leveraging your self-directed IRAs and other strategies, where now you don't necessarily need that large amount, where you're able to take on the right strategies to buy cash flowing assets, real assets that appreciate over time, that now allow you to hit your target without having to continue to save and pour in at the same rate, if you weren't using some of these other vehicles. And here, just kind of looking at life events outside of just the saving rate and the investing rate, the corporate match and things like that, but a lot of indicators where living paycheck to paycheck, especially when we start looking at the younger generations with Gen Z, millennials, with the impact of student loans and just where they are right now in the job market, that a lot of them living paycheck to paycheck. Competing priorities, 74% struggle to save due to debt. The cost of living, we all see that one. Family obligations, starting late, starting 10 years late, 38% lost opportunity in retirement savings by just starting 10 years late. And we know that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. And just the sooner you're able to start building and putting money away and investing, the better off long-term that you'll be. And then career gaps. I think this is a huge one. As we look at artificial intelligence, the immersion of robotics in the workplace, that there are going to be a lot of impacts. We've seen a lot of white collar jobs being laid off throughout this year. Amazon just laid off 30,000 individuals. UPS was more than that. And so I think over the next few years that we're going to see a lot of instability when it comes to the economy and how businesses are looking to leverage technology and replace humans in the loop. And so all these headwinds are really causing a lot of challenges as we move forward on how we can protect our retirement accounts and how we can leverage different asset classes to continue to grow and meet the different challenges head on and still be successful in our long-term goals. And so here, not really going into the longevity risk. I talked about that long-term care, healthcare costs, running out of money early as more individuals are living longer. Tax surprises, required minimum distributions is a huge one where at the age 73, you have to start taking mandatory distributions for your retirement account, whether you need it or not. Because guess what? Uncle Sam wants to be able to tax those distributions that you're making. Over reliance on Social Security, we all pray that it's still going to be there, but we know that in the near future, over the next decade, there are going to be reductions in the percentage that's paid out. And then just overall, the lack of diversification, because with the studies with Fidelity, that a lot of the recommendations are for you to tie your capital up on Wall Street for longer in order to have your portfolio exposed to more growth long term to make sure you don't run out of money. So all that going on, and of course, we know the big one is inflation. The Federal Reserve's target is to keep inflation at 2%, which means over 10 years, you're going to lose 20% of your buying power with your dollar. We all know it. We know when we used to fill our gas, we could get a gallon of gas for 99 cents. In the 90s, we could buy a Coca-Cola for 50 cents. We could get a bag of chips for a quarter. And now we just know everything's a lot more expensive. And so this is just kind of projecting out 25 years from now, $50,000. If inflation at 2% in the green line would only be the value would be around $30,000 of spending power. But guess what? At 4%, $50,000 turns into $18,756. And when we look back at 2022, where the benchmark for inflation was around, I think it was like 9.2%, the Federal Reserve said inflation was, that's where we were. And so we're seeing it today. And when we start looking at the impacts of the stimulus with printing more money, the low interest rate environments, that we just have a recipe for more increased inflation long term. And the thing is, we have to look at how we can continue to buy and own real assets to hedge against inflation long term. So with that, it's not just about the money, as I talked about earlier. It's about the security, the protection from financial uncertainty and stress, the independence where you have more time, freedom, and you don't have those financial constraints. And then ultimately the peace of mind with the confidence that your future is secure. And that's what we're all going about. Security, independence, and peace of mind in everything that we're doing when it comes to our finances. So with that, I want to kind of dive into self-directed IRAs before we start going into the different strategies. But really tonight is really looking at traditional 401ks and TSPs and what some of the alternatives are out there. And with that tonight, really diving into self-directed IRAs. And so tonight I have Spencer Reed with us. He's coming from Heritage IRA, where he is the Director of Growth and Partnerships. He has worked in financial services for 15 years, previously as a financial advisor at Wells Fargo Advisors. Spencer, he was born in Saudi Arabia while his parents were working there. He is currently a weekend warrior in the Air Force, reserved out of Nellis Air Force Base, Nevada. A little bit about Heritage IRA. They are a nationwide self-directed retirement company that allows clients the ability to invest in alternative assets and truly unlock the potential of their retirement dollars beyond stock market funds. So with no further ado, let me bring Spencer up to the space. Spencer, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, Johnny. Thanks for having me.
No, great to have you here. And really, tell us a little bit. I always like when I bring guests on, I like to have them tell me, so what's not included in the bio? Tell us something special about Spencer that we wouldn't just know from reading your bio.
Man, I speak 3 languages, and I've got 4 kids. I may not look old enough, but yeah,
Nice.
I'm 40 and have 4 kids. I don't know why, but just love them. Family guy. Well, I thanks for sharing all of that. It got me thinking about, so my parents lost a lot of their money when I was young, and I won't go into the details of it, but it was financially devastating, and sometimes events like that happen in life. But I remember I was a teenager, just it changing me and me becoming more interested in personal finance, kind of thinking like, gosh, I've got to figure this out here pretty soon. And how am I going to eventually retire, let alone support a family and everything else. I was thinking about, as you were showing all those, there's a statistic that Fidelity put out, and basically it made me think it's never too late to start. And what the statistic is they looked at how long it took people to save $100,000, and it was 13 years, which seems like a long time. The crazy thing with compounding interest is it took those people 4 years to get the next 100. And I don't remember what it was from there, but basically it starts to snowball, and your money starts working for you. The thing we're going to be talking about is really what you can do beyond your typical stock market investment. And with the a lot of your audience potentially has a TSP or has worked for the government in some form or fashion, or maybe some of you have had a 401k. In fact, if any of you have had an employer plan, like a job where you were contributing to just put like an emoji or something in the chat. But so all of these plans that you get through Fidelity, they allow you to invest in one thing, and that's kind of the stock market. And that's not a bad thing, but the entire world stock market produces about a 6% return on average. And in the process, it does this. One of the things that Johnny helps us do is invest in things that we call alternative assets. I think one day it'll actually be called primary assets, particularly real estate, but other private fund investments, oil and gas. And so that's what my firm helps people do. And you're actually able to do that through a retirement account. Most people don't have 100,000, 500,000 sitting in an account ready to invest, let alone 1,000, right? A lot of people do, though, in a retirement plan from a previous, either you or your spouse might have a job or have had a job. And when you leave that job, generally you're able to roll that money into an IRA. IRA, individual retirement account. Anyone can have one. What we do that's different than Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard is we allow you to invest in anything outside of the stock market. It can include the stock market, and I think that can still be a piece of your portfolio. But me, for example, I remember when I was studying for my Series 7 and 65, which is a book about this big, just full of rules and problems. It's just Johnny's taken some licensing as well, and we talked about it. It was pretty hard, right?
So, yeah, definitely challenging.
Yeah, and there's like one page that talks about alternative investments, and so you kind of gloss over it. And then I got into financial advising, and I met somebody who was an investor who actually they had like a little bit of money with us, but the rest of it was invested in the like duplexes and fourplexes and stuff like that. And I'm like, my mind melted. How is it, and it's one of the things that drew me to the space and ultimately to me coming into working in the space. So to give you just a brief overview, there you can set up what's called a SD IRA, self-directed IRA, that allows you to roll funds over from your TSP or old 401k plan, or even from another IRA that you might have, and invest those dollars in things outside of the stock market, things that generally have a tangible value and that help you fight inflation and ultimately beat inflation. There's also a product called a 401k, a solo 401k. If you're a self-employed individual, I have a lot of people that set these up that are like real estate agents or property flippers. It is a product basically with more bells and whistles, and it allows you to contribute up to $70,000 per year. You can add your spouse and they could contribute $70,000. So the contribution limits are really high. I've seen somebody in a matter of 5 years roll over a small amount. I mean, relatively speaking, a small amount, 50 or 60,000, start investing that and flipping properties, and then make large contributions. And I think they were close to $1 million in their 401k. These retirement plans, every time you flip a property or every time you receive a dividend check or a rental payment, it goes in tax-free. I mean, that is the greatest benefit. You talk about compounding interest, but imagine taking out the taxes. Additionally, you can actually borrow through some of them. And I'm not just talking about borrowing to yourself. Through the 401k, you can take a $50,000 loan in the event of an emergency or something like that. But you could, let's say that you had seed money, and eventually you grow this to, you start with 100, you grow up to 200,000, and the duplex costs 300,000. You could get a loan for the last 100,000, what's called a non-recourse loan. So there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity with your retirement dollars beyond that 6 or 7% that you might get in the stock market. I just I wanted to go.
And Spencer, I think that one you just brought up is a big one that a lot of people don't think about. But you're able, your 401k, you set up your EIN. It has its own account number. It's separate from your Social Security number. Your 401k, for all intents and purposes, is viewed as an individual, as its own entity. And so with that, it can borrow money from the bank just like you can with your Social Security number. And so, and the thing, like he said, is non-recourse. So if something happens, the property goes in foreclosure, they can't take your retirement account. And so say you're buying you're buying a $1 million apartment complex, and you take $200,000 that you moved out of your TSP account. You take that $200,000 as the down payment on the $1 million apartment unit, and you're going to get a loan for $800,000. Well, excuse me, you're not going to get a loan for $800,000. Your IRA or your 401k that you self-direct is going to get a loan for $800,000, and now all the monthly cash flow that apartment produces goes directly into your retirement account.
Yes, and you're able to that leverage is what makes people. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s, these products were really only for people who had high-paid tax attorneys, right? It wasn't until really the advent of the internet that it became some smaller trust companies started getting into it, like us, and prices have come down to where the average person really can easily open one of these types of accounts. They used to kind of be specialized, and you can take what you have potentially in your TSP and buy that duplex, fourplex, or apartment complex in some cases.
Yeah, Spencer, talk to us a little bit about the Roth component. Compared to like the traditional, IRAs and the TSP, what's one of the unique things with the self-directed IRAs when it comes to like the Roth component?
So with an IRA, you can have either traditional, which means tax deferred. You're going to have required mandatory distributions, RMDs, in retirement. And when you pull that money out, it's going to be seen as ordinary income and you're going to be taxed. So if you have a pension and you've got your Social Security, which that's all taxable, this would add on to that. And if you've got 500,000, it can actually be kind of tax burden. It bumps you up into that higher tax bracket. With a Roth, you can do what's called a Roth conversion, pay the taxes now with the expectation you're going to have continued tax-free earnings, and then there's no taxes when you pull it out. So a Roth is, you can do that through an IRA, but the 401k, the solo 401k that we set up also has that component. So you actually have 2 buckets of money. You could, let's say if you are a small business owner or have self-employment income, and you're flipping properties or something, and you make more than you normally do, you could contribute money in on a tax deferred basis. But then the next year, so you get a tax break on deferring it. The next year you don't do as well. You can then do a Roth conversion when you're in a lower tax bracket and move that into a Roth status, all or a portion of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great asset that especially a lot of small business owners, or if you have a side hustle, you have an LLC, or you're operating as a consultant, that you're able to put away more money in a solo 401k that's optimized for small business owners compared to the limitations that you traditionally see with a TSP or with a qualified retirement plan from your employer, where you're going to have a lot lower limits. Where I think with like the solo 401k, you could be upwards of 70,000, depending on how much income you created that year for your business, that you can put away with your personal contributions, and then the contributions that your LLC can make on behalf of your business for your retirement, that you can be upwards over $70,000 for your account, as well as your spouse. You can set up a retirement account for your spouse as well too, so double that amount. And so a lot of opportunities there when you start looking at the solo 401k. We did get one question there from Mr. Jardine. Could you talk more about how the dividends you get from a 401k loan are tax-free? To clarify that, I think the 401k loan with the tax-free, so if you do a loan against your 401k, that would definitely be tax-free, the money that you pay out. Is that what you're asking, Ian? I'm asking to clarify that one. But can you talk a little about the loan?
So first of all, if you take money out of your 401k, you have to pay it back. It's a loan from your 401k if you use it for personal reasons. And you can set your own interest rate, which is really cool, because let's say that you borrow from the Roth portion $10,000. Some people will set a really high interest rate because they actually want to pay themselves back into the Roth at a higher amount than they normally would want, and you can do that over 5 years, or you can pay it off at any point within 5 years. Now, if you're talking about a loan where you get a non-recourse loan, so you use the 401k money to purchase a property, and then you get a loan. That loan, as long as you're not one of the rules is that you can't directly provide a benefit. I guess we should talk about some of the rules. You can't provide direct benefit to the investments inside of your property. So you can't be the guarantor on the loan. You can't buy a rental property that you're next to a college that you're going to let your kids stay in one of the rooms or something like that. It's got to be strictly for investment purposes. I mean, also, I get a lot of people ask, like, can I physically go in and like buy a place and like add my free labor, fix the place up myself? And you can't. You can use the 401k money to purchase the property, and you can use that if there's any additional money. Hopefully there is. You can use that to pay somebody to fix up the property, but you can't like gift your time. What you can do though is manage, like if it's a rental, you can manage getting someone in there, collecting rents, things like that. So another type of loan is a lot of people actually do lending out of their retirement account. And so you're kind of like a hard money lender, and you charge, I mean, I've seen people charge 5 points up front. So if it's as small as a $10,000 loan, you're getting $500 just for them signing the dotted line. and then you're charging 12% on top of that. Standard is more like a 1 or 2%. 2% is pretty average on a hard money loan.
Yep.
So there's that type of, but any of the income that comes back in from that property that you bought, or if you lend the money out, is going to be tax-free because it's a retirement account.
Yeah, no, I think that is a great point to bring out, because when you look at high net worth earners that make a lot of income and leveraging your self-directed retirement account, you can't benefit from it. And so you're really looking for operators, you're looking for deals, you're looking for syndications, maybe multifamily funds, like you said, private lending, or maybe even invested in a private equity fund that lends the money out to businesses, or a private credit fund that maybe lends it out to real estate investors. And so there's different ways where you can lend directly to individuals, or you can invest with your self-directed IRA into institutions or funds that will lend it out on your behalf. And they do all the underwriting of the borrower, of the deals, of the projects. And then that way you just get a return. And so I think you bring up a lot of strategy, that you can have. Is you can be really passive. You get at the grassroots level and get into individual projects, or there's more institutional type deals that you can invest in with your self-directed IRA as well. And so, I think the question there, so no sweat equity on the 401k purchase. Yep. So exactly. And the way I like to think about it, that you can't benefit from your retirement account until you're 59 and a half years old. And so the same thing with your self-directed IRA, you can't like go buy a beach house and then you're living in the beach house 6 months out the year until you're at 59 and a half. And so once you're at the age where you can start doing distributions, then you can look at retitling the property over to yourself personally. And then that way you can start benefiting from these assets that your retirement account owns. So no, that's a great point. So let's see here. It says, it's safe to say that you are basically the lender. So it's potentially in your best interest to have a higher interest rate on the loan. 100%, because now you're able to put more money away legally with paying yourself and paying into your retirement account by the interest that your retirement account is charging you to on that loan. And so that's one of the things, the flexibility that you have on how you pay back that loan, and you set your rate. So, you set it in a way where it's going to benefit you long term to kind of grow that nest egg that's growing tax-free as you're going through the process. No, great question. Let's see. We have another one here from Kevin P. What's going on, Kevin? Can you talk more about how self-directed IRA will work for getting a property with a 403B account from a previous employer regarding the taxes?
Yeah, I mean, basically, a 403B is just another type of. It's similar. It's usually used in like government, like emergencies. Like maybe you've worked for a hospital or like a local government, but it's similar to a 401k. It's an employer plan. And a TSP. We roll the money over. It leaves the 403B. It's in either a 401k or a self-directed IRA, and then you invest in alternative assets.
Gotcha. So it's just the standard business process. So 403B or employer 401k, kind of synonymous, and you roll over those funds from custodian who has it, whoever manages that plan for that employer, and now roll it over to like Heritage IRA or whoever that custodian is that's going to set up their self-directed IRA. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just along those lines, I want to mention that when you leave an employer, you can do whatever you want with your retirement dollars. And so what a lot of people will actually do is, let's say you've had a long career, you've got 500,000 or whatever it is in that 403B or that TSP. You roll it over, and let's say that Johnny's got an investment that you want to put 250,000 into. You don't want to put it all in there, but it's some real estate syndication. You're buying a piece of an apartment complex. People will do that, and then they'll invest. I want to do a hard money loan, but I don't know how to do it. Well, there's lots of opportunities and funds out there that kind of do it for you almost. Mm-hmm. Let's say, I still want to buy stocks. Either under the umbrella of the 401k, you can set up a brokerage account, or you could just set up an IRA at Schwab or Fidelity for free and transfer 50 or 100,000, whatever over there and do your trading. So you really don't have to invest it all in one place. It's your money. You can do what you want.
Yep, I think that's a great point with the self-directed. The self-directed piece of it is critical. You take back control of your retirement money, where it's not all tied up in the stock market with the roller coaster that we know that goes up and down. Because the last thing you want to do is where you have all your retirement account taking a 20% drop when the market corrects in one setting, and that's the last
Which might
thing
be
you want to
happening
do.
right now. I've seen a lot of red days.
Yes, it could be coming. It could be coming. We are at all-time highs, and where we are, eventually it's going to happen. That we have to have a reset, and where everything is at. Some people are saying we may be in an AI bubble with all the crazy valuations for a lot of the tech companies, and inflation is trickling back up. A lot of people are being laid off, fired. That this is the time you want to be reinvesting and you want to go in and redistributing and reallocating your portfolio now and diversifying, where you're taking in all these gains, and now it's like, okay, let me take some of these chips off the table. Let me look at how I can hedge my portfolio in different ways where I'm not overly exposed to equities with everything that's going on. I think that's a great one. And so is the interest tax-free? That was another question came up.
So interest, I'm guessing you mean interest earnings within your retirement plan. So interest on if you did a loan or something. Yes, it is. That's just like if you bought a stock and it paid you a dividend inside of your or some of the mutual funds that TSP provides have an annual dividend. That's kind of like the interest, I guess you could say. It's a little different, but any earnings are tax-free within the plan. I was just looking at the other one, rollovers, like it says, would you need to pay the taxes on the 403b prior to the rollover? No. The only time you're going to pay taxes, there's two scenarios, is when you take a distribution, which is basically a withdrawal to yourself. And usually you'll try to do that after you're 59 and a half to avoid a 10% penalty. Because you want this money to grow. In fact, some people try to avoid pulling any money until they're well into their 60s because it's growing tax-free. So why not? The other time that you might pay taxes is if you decide to do a Roth conversion, and that's moving that money from the pre-tax status to we've already paid the taxes and it's going to grow, and then when I take it out, it's tax-free in the Roth status.
Yep. No, that's a great point with the rollover and finding that optimal time to transfer or rollover from a traditional plan to a Roth plan, where now you're going to have a tax. You're going to have a tax, I guess, instance where you're moving that money over in a distribution to move it into a Roth is pay taxes. But some of the strategy that I've seen here the last few months now, as an advisor, that a lot of times they'll roll that money over and they'll put it into a self-directed IRA on the Roth side, and they'll invest in oil and gas that comes with tax write-offs with the indirect drilling costs, as well as the depletion allowances that you have. And so now they can essentially wipe out the tax bill because now they're invested in the self-directed IRA into an oil and gas deal that has tax advantages with it. And so now it offsets that bill. And so now you're able to roll your money over into a Roth, and now it's able to grow long term, and it's completely 100% tax free, whatever your distributions are.
Yeah,
so
that's one of the things that, and it does basically pay for the conversion to the Roth status. It's great.
Yep, the great strategy. We got another one here from Brian. What's going on, Brian? What type of loan should we consider, and which one should we avoid?
So you always want to make sure there's collateral involved. The number one thing that I mistake, I guess I see is, well, for one, let's go back to the rules. You can't lend this money to certain family members and certain business partners. But pretty much your parent, it's kind of think of the family tree just up and down and not spread out. So you can actually invest with or transact with using this money. You could lend to like a brother, a sister, a cousin, an aunt, or an uncle. But your parents and your spouse's parents, and then grandparents, great grandparents, direct descendant, whatever the term is, uh, in both directions, and your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and then you and your spouse. You can't lend to yourself. You can't lend to your parents or your children, basically. So the number one mistake I see is people will lend without collateral. So make sure you go through a title company. Find somebody who knows how to do it, or go through. If you just go, like Johnny is going to provide you with a bunch of resources, but there's just companies out there that will do the hard money lending on your behalf, or facilitate where you can actually choose a particular property, and they'll make sure that everything is recorded properly. That way, worst case scenario, if basically the person doesn't pay their bills, you have a property to fall back on. So it's in some cases I've seen people by purchasing tax liens and things like that, like turn out in a better scenario than they ever could have thought of.
Yeah, definitely the collateral piece is one to definitely consider, and understand if you're like in a first or second position, if there's like a mortgage in front of your loan or promissory note is a big one. And I think really looking at a lot of the different funds that are out there, that you bring up a great point, where now you don't have to vet the deals or anything. You just invest your money and they give you a monthly distribution and pay you. And they take care of the underwriting the deals, the sponsor, making sure they're collecting the monthly payments, making sure they have insurance and everything lined up. And you can access your capital within like less than 30 days. Like, hey, I want to pull my money out. I got a new investment. They're pretty liquid where you can access your capital as well too. And so yes, there's a lot of great opportunities there.
I was speaking with a gentleman recently who was younger than me, and he was getting like $3,000 a month in interest. And I was like, what the heck did you do? And he's like, I found this opportunity, this company that does the hard money lending on my behalf. And he's like, I saved really hard when I was in my 20s. I think he's in his probably mid 30s, I'd guess. And he got to kind of that 100,000 mark. And you think about it, if you're making 12% on 100,000, well, that's $1,000 a month. And then he would immediately take that money and reinvest it. And so then it was $1,010 a month, and then the next month it was $1,020, just because he kept reinvesting. And in the space of like 5 years, he turned that 100,000 into several $100,000, and that was paying him $2,000 or $3,000 a month. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like, you just have to get started. You have to just get started, and that snowball effect. Once you get going, the ball's rolling down the hill, and the next thing you know, greatness has happened. I shared this a few weeks ago. I was speaking at the Charm Real Estate Conference in North Alabama back in September, and I think it may have been self-directed IRA that was in the room. And the gentleman was giving one of the stories. The guy, he had roughly, I think it was $90,000 in his self-directed IRA back in 2012 in Austin, Texas. Left his job. It was all he had in there was 90K. And over the next 2 years, he was using a subject to strategy where he was buying houses, taking over the existing mortgage payments, and keeping the debt in place. So with that, he had bought, I think it was a total of 7 houses over the next 2 years, and bought it just using his money. He would take 10, 15,000, pay off the payments that were behind so they don't go into foreclosure, catch up the payments, bring them current, and then rent the property out, and then collecting the cash flows, going to his retirement account. And so this is 2012, 2014, he has 7 properties. So the value here in 2025, so 2014, 11 years, 12, 11 years since then, valued at over $4 million. The 7 houses, a handful of them are already paid off, and a few of them had just a few years left on the balance. And of course, Austin, Texas, a lot of appreciation, even though they've scaled back a little bit the last year or two, but massive appreciation in these homes that he bought way back in 2012 and 2014 prices for real estate in Austin. And so just taking that little seed of 90K and buying real estate using subject to, where you didn't have to go and get debt, just caught some month's payments up and then just rented it out and brought the cash flow into his self-directed IRA that he took went from 90,000 to, in over a decade, 10, 11 years to over $4 million in valuation. And so that's the power of like having the right strategy and using real estate and using the right asset class that's appreciating over time and going up in value. When you have debt paid down by your tenant that's happening, that's paying down your rent each month. And so just having the right strategy, like, and giving yourself enough time that you can really set yourself up for success. But the thing is, you have to start taking action. You have to know the strategies, the vehicles and asset classes that you can use to leverage these things to take it to the next level. And that's what a lot of the wealthy have been doing year over year. And I think the big one, when you look at self-directed IRAs, was Mitt Romney. And when you look at the limitations that and I think Ian Jardine, I'll bring his question up, was just really talking about here about the limitations on the annual contribution. They were saying, he had a previous employer with a self-directed IRA. When they were doing a lot of the private equity deals and buying these companies, Mitt Romney would allow his self-directed IRA to invest in those companies as well. And so he was able to grow. And I think the limitation on his Roth account, what's the max contributions, around 6,000. I think you can contribute to your Roth. But the gains that your self-directed IRA is allowed to make is unlimited. It's infinite. So they were asking, over 10 years, you have a self-directed IRA. How did you get your self-directed IRA to nearly $100 million in value? But he was able to invest money from the self-directed IRA in these private equity deals and partner along with him and grow it over time. And so that was one of the things I remember 2016 election. He got a lot of flack for that. We're like, okay, how did you build this to your retirement account to over 100 million? But it was self-directed IRA. So what do you think before that question there from Ian? If you're maxing out your 401k, does that prevent or limit you from investing in an IRA? That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a very common question. So you can max out your 401k and you can max out an IRA this year. If you're under 50, it's 7,000. There's $1,000 catch up if you're 50 or older, so it's 8,000. I think I just read that it's gone up by $500. So in 2026, 7,500, 8,500. So you can do both. Yeah.
Oh, great question there from Ian. And the thing is, I'm gonna drop this article here in the chat for you guys to check out here, just where you can kind of read that article about Mitt Romney. And it's actually from Equity Trust, who's a IRA custodian, that talks about how he took his IRA to $100 million. Let's see here. We got another question here. I'm curious. When people leave a retirement account behind for years, where does it even go? Is it just sitting somewhere, or is there something happening to it? Is it still possible to get access to it again if it's like 10 years ago, and how? Great question, and 100% yes. I'll actually drop that link in the chat. So one of the things that kind of doing this, more and more research and kind of helping clients in this space, that there's definitely a place that the Department of Labor has for lost 401k accounts, and I'll drop it here. And so one of the things that you can go and do, you have to have a login.gov account, but they have a database of lost and found retirement savings account. And the crazy number is, I think there was 38 million retirement accounts right now that are unaccounted for, and well over $1 trillion when you look at the total of what's saved in those accounts. Over $1 trillion of assets that people have, that they hard work money, that they have no clue that's what it's invested in. They don't even have no clue that it even exists. And that's one of the things that definitely you want to be able to look and check and see. If you work for somewhere, maybe they were because a lot of times employers, depending on the size, they were mandatory that they had to have a retirement account set up for you. When you did your onboarding, signed your paperwork, you may not even know that you had signed it. And so that's one of the things you definitely want to look at. And so here's the website. Just put that in the chat. Lost and found .dol for labor.gov. And so Department of Labor.gov. And you can go in, check your account, and see if you got money out there in a retirement account. And guess what? And that's one of the things that I love about retirement accounts, because a lot of times we don't necessarily have a lot of disposable income that we can invest in real estate and go buy assets. But a lot of times we have our retirement account. And so now understanding that how you can take that capital, those resources that you already have control over, and now go buy real cash flowing assets that are appreciating in value. And now they're feeding your retirement account to grow your nest egg over time. Here's another one from IC. Can those old accounts accumulated for, let's say, 10, 20 years can be rolled into one self-directed IRA?
Yes. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say there. Back to your point about Mitt Romney and the investments that he made to. So a lot of people have talked to me, and sometimes we get very high net worth people that want to use retirement accounts to invest in hedge funds. If you actually look at the returns of a hedge fund, on average, it's around 20%, maybe, let's say, which is higher than the stock market. But there's also a lot of risk there because
that's true.
They're doing they're like investing in Sears, which is like dying, right, or dead right now. But so it's one of those things where you can make a lot of money and lose a lot of money. But I actually have found that when people are actively involved in their own craft, in their own trade, so you could buy a property for $100,000 in some places in the country still, right? And if you sell it for 140, you had a contractor going, you spend $5,000 on new carpet and paint or something. You've just made a 40% return, and you've doubled what a hedge fund has done. So really, at this micro level that we all have, we can do incredible things and have great returns.
Yep, no, I agree 100% because the alternative space, like I'll tell you, like the last few months, like going to these company headquarters, funds that are, raising hundreds of millions of dollars for oil and gas, hundreds of millions of dollars for like buying self-storage, value add projects across Texas, multifamily funds buying Class A, brand new, newly constructed multifamily across the Southeast. And so you see a lot of the assets, and these companies been around 30, 40 years, done billions of dollars of transactions. They have professional management. And the thing is like for so many years, you have like no clue on how these deals are getting done and funded. And unfortunately, a lot of it has been allocated only for accredited investors. And even for accredited investors, really now getting access to a lot of these deals the last decade. And so I think, really thinking outside the box and understanding that there's a whole different world out here. I know President Trump signed a executive order a few months ago about telling the SEC to work with Wall Street to see how they can allow traditional 401ks to get access to private equity deals. Just because so many wealthy individuals have been accessing private equity. We just talked about, Mitt Romney and Bain Capital and the deals that they're doing, that now they want to expose the 401ks, traditional 401ks, out to get off Wall Street and access more private equity. So we'll see. I think that's going to bring a whole nother level of scrutiny and rules that come with it. But I think that's, where a lot of people are looking at and really trying to understand how to get more exposure for their retirement accounts. No, great questions. Great questions. Let's see. I think we covered a lot of what we were looking to bring on and kind of go through. And let's see here. We talked about mistakes already. We went through some of the contribution maximums and matching, withdrawal strategies, self-directed freedom. I think what are some of the things that you kind of see that we didn't talk about that you think be valuable for the audience?
Oh, that's hard. That's a great question. And the only thing I would say is to have perspective. You're learning something new potentially in what you can do, and And the other thing would be to take some action. What I see is so many people get excited and then it just kind of, nothing ends up happening and their money is stuck in the account for another 10 years. Not stuck, but they just don't do anything with it. And yes, it's going to grow little by little, but if you take action, that's really what makes things happen. The other thing is like, there's opportunities where this can be easy. And so you roll this money over and you invest it in a deal that's basically managed for you. That could be real estate related, oil and gas, where you're just getting the dividends. And so there's not as much legwork. You don't need to stress or worry about like, who's going to call the plumber on this property, things like that. It's actually not as intense. It doesn't have to be intense or scary. But it is something new that you're investing your money in. So, I think also just continue to learn, and Johnny's platform is a great place to do that.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. When I talk about in my book, chapter 4 is titled "Take Action," and I think that is critical with how you do anything with change your life, because like a lot of it's just being consistent. Like when investing, you need to just show up consistently with anything that you're looking to do and learn. Like most people don't find success and don't achieve success is because they quit too early. They're not consistent. They don't follow through. They don't change their horrible habits, and it impacts them in those areas. So I think that you bring up a critical point there. I see has a question. Do you guys assist with how to recover these old accounts and how and where to roll over? That's a great question. Really check out that website and log in. And I haven't personally used it to set up. I know you need to just have establish a login.gov account. And once you go into that account, it would allow you to check out and see what you have access to in regards to previous employer accounts out there. And from there, one of the things with REI Genius and the strategies and that allow you to invest in some of the pros and cons and kind of educating you on how to make an informed investment in some of those things. That's something we definitely help with and support in regards to that. And that's something that we can talk a little bit later on that. I'll bring up actually this website and share it with you guys, and so you can kind of see what it looks like when you go to that link and check it out for the first time, that you will know what it is that you're actually looking for. And so here I'm gonna add this on. Yep, so it's just the lost and found database that you can see here. And when you go through that, go in, you're gonna get started. So you're gonna sign in with login.gov. So you're gonna click the button below and you're gonna have to set up a login.gov account. And I think usually you have to upload a picture of your like driver license or a ID. You're gonna have a picture ID. But once you get verified, they're gonna take you to the lost and found search. And looks like you just need legal first name, date of birth, social security number, mobile device, and there you go, front and back photo of an active driver license to set up that login.gov account. And they have the frequently asked questions here on what you can find, and you can kind of dive in and see the different benefit plans and define benefit pension plans and define contribution plans. So 401ks and different annuities and different payment, lump sum payment, retirement. So all that stuff is out there. And then you may want to look for loved ones as well too, that you may want to take their information and help a parent or a grandparent out, that they may you can't hurt to check and just see what's out there, and making sure that there's not money just left out there hanging out that you didn't even realize it. Question here: how do you know, or how do you find deals that are managed for you? Yeah, so that's a great question. So really, it comes down to I would say real estate clubs, financial advisors, and knowing where operators are and the type of deals. whether it's going to conferences and finding individuals. And, for like accredited investors, one of the big ones is just really, as an advisor, we're having alternative investments. I think right now we have 67 investments, approved alternative investments on it, from private equity, private credit opportunities like Goldman Sachs, to different funds that are buying multifamily, buying self storage, that are buying land to land bank for like DR Horton and Lennar. Uh, that you name it, you have a lot of different unique oil and gas, oil and gas that looking to do exploratory stuff, oil and gas that are looking to buy existing oil wells and do like a value add component, as well as you just have mom and pop individual uh, deals. I have private investors in my deals on, starting off on single family, on fix and flip deals, as well as on our multifamily deals as well too, with investors that use their self-directed IRA to invest in our deals. So there's a lot of different deals around, but you just have to find operators and real estate investors, or talk to the right financial advisor where they have alternative investments on their platform so you can get plugged in. No, that's a great question. With that, what else? I'm trying to think. I think we covered a lot of it. I have a few more slides. I want to educate and kind of, not educate, but really just kind of go through some of the benefits of real estate for those that may not, uh, you know, have that set up or kind of understand what, some of the benefits of real estate. Just kind of walk through. I know we're already at the 1 hour mark and going through, but I want to spend about 15 minutes really to answer any other questions. But then just so I have a couple case studies that I like to show, and just show the power of real estate, and get before you can start thinking about, hey, how can this help me? Um, but before we do that, any parting words or anything that you
No,
would
I
like to
really
share?
appreciate you having me on, Johnny. It's been great chatting with your group, and I'll stick around until the end. I'd like to see what's going on. But thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you. Then for thank you, and we'll definitely. What's the best way for people to contact you that are enrich with heritage? I know I have a couple clients that are looking to get self-directed IRAs if we're gonna get paired up, and and I think one of the things too with our uh, our kind of retirement bundle plan that we're doing with REI Genius, we're really helping people to hone in on their strategy, especially when it comes to real estate, but being able to pair, the strategies and how to diversify, and putting that together with the self-directed IRAs where they're completely informed. And over, a 30-day period, they go from, not having a self-directed IRA to having a self-directed IRA set up, having a alternative investment strategy, and then off to the races with kind of understanding the pros and cons. And one of the cool things too that we rolled in there is access to a lot of the education on regards to real estate and multifamily that we already have in place, and really building out that community, because that's one of the things going into 2026. There are going to be tremendous opportunities, and just making sure that we're helping people position themselves strategically where now they can accelerate their retirement and overall just investment growth long term.
Yeah. Why don't I provide you with my contact information, and well, you've got it, so you can send it out to your group, um, and they can contact me that way, or you can do it as an
Okay.
introduction.
Yeah, no, most definitely. We'll share it in the group, and we'll make sure we get everybody plugged in on there,
Yeah,
and get
I'll
going.
put my email in this in the comment field as well.
Yep, no, that'll be perfect. And I think, really rolling in uh, to, we talked about a lot about the self-directed IRA and the real estate, man. But the private equity hedge funds. We talked about Mitt Romney and Bain Capital, and just overall alternative investments. But one of the things that I really like to hone in on is really showing what the wealthy invest in. And so when you look at the dark blue is real estate. And so you see the top 1%. So, real estate exposure, some there, but you see here the next shaded blue. You really can't discern the different colors, but stocks and mutual fund shares. So you see here the top 1%, just the exposure to stocks. We just saw here recently. Guess what? They just approved a $1 trillion pay package uh, for Elon Musk from Tesla. And guess what? They didn't pay him in money. They paid him in stocks into the company. And guess what? When you have a large stock portfolio, you own stocks in the company, you have the stock price, you do the math, and now you're worth X amount. And now you can go get a loan against your brokerage account, your stock shares. And guess what? Now you don't have to pay taxes on any of that money. And so that's one of the things that you see with high net worth individuals that own company stock, and they're able to get loans against their portfolios and not sell them in order to get capital. And guess what? They avoid paying any taxes. And so, kind of that next strategy you see here, retirement accounts makes up a small amount for the top 1%, then followed by private business is a large size here, and then guess what? Other assets, other alternative investments there. But then we look at the top 20%, kind of where we want to target and look at, and you see here the overwhelming majority real estate is the exposure there. And then after that, stocks and bonds, brokerage accounts. And then after that, a little bit larger is retirement accounts. And so equities makes up the largest asset class right now for Americans, followed by, real estate, of course, is right behind. But this is what you kind of see. What are they doing here? They investing in real estate. They also have stocks and bonds, and they also have exposure here to their retirement accounts. And then we have, private businesses, and then other assets as well makes a large chunk of the wealth, almost $75 trillion worth of wealth for the top 20%. Then you see it kind of replicated here in the fourth 20%, with real estate still being number one, stocks and bonds, but then the majority, after real estate being in retirement accounts. And so this just really shows you where the money and where the capital is flowing. Why real estate? So you look at the income right now where we are, and it hasn't gotten any better. And and inflation continues to tick up. It's going to go get worse. So the right now affordability is at an all-time low in regards to being able to afford to buy a home, just because of byproduct of higher interest rates, inflation, as well as just the wages haven't kept up with the pace of growth. And so now you see here the median household income is around 80, low 80,000. But guess what? The affordability needed to buy a house is approaching 120,000. So about a $40,000 gap in what's needed for a family to afford to buy the average size home today. And so with that, that's going to drive a ton of rental demand, because guess what? If you can't afford to buy, you're going to have to rent. Then on the other side of that equation, you look at the impact of over the last few years with the run up in interest rates. New construction has slowed down in certain areas. And right now, where we are and coming out of the 2008 crisis, you can see here back in 2010 on existing houses units relative to population demand. And you can see here where we were at zero around 2010. And guess what? After coming out of the mortgage meltdown and the '08 crisis, we see here how just as you think about the millennials, they're coming into family forming age, into their 30s. They're having kids. They're ready to start homes, and so all this demand for people that need starter homes. Guess what? We weren't building homes while these families were being formed, and so now we see here 2 million in the early 2010s. And all the way as we're going into 2020 to COVID, where we were over 4 million homes less that were needed in a deficit. And so right now, coming out of 2022, 3.2 million, that really hasn't changed. And so there's a ton of demand for housing that just doesn't exist. And so when you really think about it, we're bullish. We understand the power of real estate, but I really want to show you the power of real estate and the opportunity that you have with self-directed IRAs, where you can blend the benefits of real estate, but then also the benefits of deferred or paying no taxes with the retirement accounts. And so when you look at the wealth and look at it, multifamily properties, the liquidity is it's less liquid. It takes some time to sell, so you can't just immediately sell. But of course, on the $1 million retirement account, you're going to be a little bit more liquid, and you have easier access to funds. You can just log in and do a distribution. Diversification. You can be diversified across various property types and location. You can have property in Panama City. You can have property in Montgomery, Alabama, Detroit, Michigan, and you can have different property managers that's managing it for you, as well as you can look at having different asset class. You can have, in this case, we're just saying multifamily, but you can have self-storage, you can have single family, and you can have different assets. You can have retail space as well too. The $1 million, you can diversify across various assets, primarily stocks and bonds with the retirement account. Your initial investment, it requires upfront investment for purchase and maintenance for your multifamily. Your $1 million retirement account requires a large lump sum or consistent contributions over time in order to get to that $1 million. Your risk, you're subject to property market fluctuations. Real estate values don't always go up; they can go up and down. Tenant issues, maintenance costs, those things are risks that come with multifamily. Subject to market volatility and investment risk on the retirement account side, and then just long term growth. You have potential for strong long-term growth through cash flow and appreciation. I know, looking at the data over the last 60 years, the average appreciation in the DMV, the DC market, was right around 4% annual appreciation for real estate over a 60-year term. And so you had the ups and downs, but it averages out to 4%. Long-term growth for your portfolio. Growth depends on investment strategy and market performance. You got to understand your risk tolerance, how you're set up, with your different funds. Are you focused on growth? Are you focused on appreciation? Are you focused on income? And so now those strategies are going to dictate the type of returns you get. So now let's look at that, kind of comparing it as actually break down the differences and see how the options compare when you're looking at growth and the income produced by the assets, and then just the overall benefits. So we're going to do over a 20-year period, compare multifamily to $1 million retirement account. And this is where it really gets good. So with your initial investment, you're going to have to put a $210,000 down payment for your $1 million property that you're going to buy. And we're going to match that $1 million in your retirement account. So now the annual income that you're going to be able to generate from this asset. So 180,000. So that's cash flow. So what is that, about $6,000? Well, no, that's more than 6,000 a year. So a little bit over 10 grand per year that's coming in from that asset. So 180,000. And the $1 million retirement account, we're going to say the 4% rule, where once you're in retirement, they recommend that you take 4% out annually to live off of. And so that actually, I've seen, cases where they're saying taking that down to 3.5% just because you need to make your money last longer. But we're going to use 4% as kind of the baseline. And from there, your annual expenses for the property, 120,000, and no expenses, of course, for your retirement account. But now we're going to look at the net annual income benefit. So 60,000. So after you pay all your bills for your multifamily, you're left with 60K a year. For your retirement account, you're taking out the distribution of 40,000. So annual appreciation return. So we're going to say 3% increase in property value a year. That's conservative. And for your $1 million retirement account, we're going to say after taxes on distributions and all that, you're going to have a 5% return on your investment when you look at your fees and everything that you pay out your account. So 5%. Total net income over 20 years. So if you own that property 20 years, you're going to receive 60,000 a year times 20, 1.2 million in distributions for cash flow that's going directly. And we'll say, the 1.2 million going into your pocket. So $1 million retirement account. Now you're going to take distributions over 20 years of $800,000, $40,000 a year times 20, 800K. So now your final property value after 20 years. So now that property that you bought for $1 million is now worth 2.65 million over 20 years. It's going up in value. Now, after 20 years, what is that $1 million retirement account worth? $230,000 is what's left in that $1 million retirement account. And so now you look at the total earnings, 3.85 million for the multifamily property over 20 years. You're adding that cash flow. And now the new value of the property, if you went out and sold it and got cash value for it. And now the $1 million retirement account that you're looking at, the total earnings from the income that you were able to take from it, 800,000, then plus the 234 is the value after the 20 years, $1,030,000. Now look at that. So you're looking at the valuation over 20 years where you've almost tripled the value from 1 million compared to almost $4 million for the multifamily property. And you started with, guess what, initial investment of only 210,000. Now think about if you couple those together. Now, what if you took 200,000 from your retirement account and went and bought a multifamily property where they'll loan your 401k the money to buy the property, and now that $60,000 a year is going into a Roth account or going into your retirement account each year for 20 years. And so this is kind of the strategies where you look at now how you can blend your self-directed IRA with real estate. And now looking at taking a portion, not even taking all of it, take a portion of your retirement account and buying real estate that now the cash flow is funding your retirement vehicle. And so that's where we start talking about how to supercharge your retirement accounts by being able to take the leverage with real estate, the hedge against inflation, and just the overall appreciation of the asset, which we know is a great hedge against inflation, all in your retirement account, to where now you're building that secure nest egg for the future. And then on top of this, when you look at the distributions, if this wasn't in your retirement account, just over 20 years with the depreciation. So tax write-off of 699,000 that you're able to write off your taxes each year off passive income, which essentially if you had to pay, if you were a 24% tax rate, that you would end up you would end up having to pay 132,000 in taxes over that 20-year period that you're saving. And then just going through, and we won't belabor this, but just really talking about it, as we kind of walk through that scenario, the increased cash flow that comes from real estate. You got higher income potential, and you have economy of scales when you start looking at multifamily versus a single family home. The equity growth we saw over 20 years, with the appreciation, and just a 5% annual appreciation can turn $1 million into 1.28 million in just 5 years. And so that's where we understand, especially in a high inflation environment where you see those asset prices go up. Diversification, you mitigate your risk, you have more income stability, and you diversify from the roller coaster of the stock market. And then lastly, stability through multiple income streams, consistent cash flow, economic resilience, a recession, and where now all your eggs aren't in one basket. You have real assets that you own. You can continue to pass down and have that legacy that you can hand over to your next generation. And so this kind of going into this case study, and I just really want to show the power of this, of how you can start, with buying that first property, 150K with the monthly rent, just $1,200 that you're making. And all this is assuming cash. We won't get into doing loans and the monthly payments and things like that. But really, you're making $1,200 and you invested 150K. And looking at the end of year 7 and just going through the results and impact, how she can build that up to $1.6 million across all her properties and increase from that first property, that one rental with $1,200, to a portfolio that's generating $16,400 a month of cash flow. And just the equity growth and how that snowballs and grows over time. And I think I dropped, oh, here it is. This kind of shows her story and how that scale. And so, starting with 3 rentals and going through and understanding how to scale up, and then looking at bringing on 2 multifamilies to go to 7 units total, leveraging some private lenders. We talked about people, a private lender, someone maybe lending money out their self-directed IRA, but they go and acquire 3 more properties and now a total of 10 units, but then looks at, hey, now buys a mix of properties. So 15 units total, takes the profit, does renovations, hires a property manager, kind of getting time back. And now, in just 3 years, reaches 20 units. And then just kind of as the market shifts, continue to look at ways to grow the portfolio. And then eventually we all like to serve and give back. And just start, but it just shows how you can start. And then just another case study here with this individual, they start with 10 units and then looked at how they could add value with being able to go in and buy a duplex, then purchase 2 more properties, and then buy 3 more properties, the next year, bringing in, software that they can use to expand their portfolio, continue to buy and invest, and then continue just to grow and, building their network and continue to collaborate. And so, the thing is like, there's so many different ways to get started. And then like this last one here, where Emily started with 0, no deals, researching the market, joins a real estate group, buys her first property, a duplex, gets the financing, got the cash flow coming in. The next year, adds 2 more properties, renovates, lease the properties up. Then next year, guess what? Expands to 10 units and adds to her portfolio. And then, in 2024, reaches 15 units, optimize the portfolio, and then just continue to get out sharing, building the network, and going through and continue to grow along the way. And so I think these are just, ways and strategies where it's not going to happen overnight. It's a marathon, but you got to get started. You got to leverage and take back control of the resources, the money that you have today, and understand how you can invest it smartly. So with that, one of the things that really to really hit home that you got to take back control. We can't control inflation. We can't control everything that's going on with the media, with politics. We can't control what's going on in our own jobs. And so I think the onus is on us to take back control of everything that we have access to. And so I think one of the largest resources we have outside of our time is our retirement accounts. And so that's one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about, and helping people level up, understand how they can take back control of their retirement resources and go buy apartments with the self-directed IRAs. And you guys see the benefit of just real estate. And now if you can take the money you already saved, the hard-earned time you put in to building up this nest egg with your retirement account, and then go buy a property. Or even, maybe you partner with your wife's 401k, or partner with someone else's 401k, where they can both combine and buy a property. That you definitely are only limited by your creativity, because the strategies out here, the vehicles out here. Now you just have to bring the two together. And I think that's where I want to have that conversation with you guys. If you see how you can benefit for this, and how this can add value to you and everything that you're trying to build for your future, then definitely get on my calendar here in the next few days. Let's have a conversation and see how we can kind of take everything that you're building to the next level, because that's what it's all about. And so with that, any questions? Anybody? I think everybody enjoyed the presentation that we had tonight. Spencer, just bringing some of those up on the screen. It's definitely been a pleasure having you on and sharing your expertise and everything that you guys are doing over at Heritage IRA. And definitely look to continue to grow together, and kind of the clients that we are bringing on. That's one of the things that we're really rolling to 2026, that I'm looking to build a strong community that are looking ready to take action, and, and establishing an investment club, and looking at how to bring these things together to help people take back control and start taking advantage of this silver tsunami. Because I had a great conversation with CoStar. We're bringing on CoStar commercial real estate data, and having access to the data. So when you start talking about deals that are in distress, motivated sellers, owners, where now we have access to every commercial real estate owner in the United States, whether it's multifamily, self-storage. We can see loans that are in default, that are in pre-foreclosure, where we can coordinate and work with owners, where we can buy real estate at deep discounts, commercial real estate. And so that's one of the things that I'm extremely passionate about. So I know we're going to be in conversation as people are coming on board and looking to set up those self-directed IRAs, that the future is going to be right. Definitely looking forward to 2026.
And I think this information is just invaluable. One of the most important things someone can do is find a mentor. And so somebody had asked earlier, like, how do I find the investment provider? Work with an advisor. Find somebody who can guide you through it. And I think your program is amazing. And for all of you who, whether you invest with your personal money, or meaning money that you might have in a savings account, or outside of a retirement account, or if you do have one, Johnny will get us in touch, and we can chat more. So, but yeah, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure.
Most definitely. And I'm gonna hang out a little bit. Anybody have any questions, or definitely feel free. We have some time to kind of address those. I locked in an hour and a half, and I think this has been great, and look forward to continue to keep the discussion going with you guys. Definitely get on my calendar, and let's have a conversation. You see, Kevin said, "Hey," he said, if I have two retirement accounts, one is Roth and one is a pre-tax. If I shift one to self-directed IRA, what are the pros and cons of shifting either?"
You can do either one. I mean, which one do you want to grow outside of the stock market? That's the question to ask. The after tax or the pre-tax one?
Yep. No, I think that's it. That brings up a great point. It's just really kind of what you want outside the market. What do you want to kind of take control of there, and put to work? No, a great one. Yeah, Brian said, great discussion and questions. We found an advisor with you too. Most definitely, we got you. We definitely got your six, Brian, for sure.
All right. Well, I've got kids to put to bed, so I
Yep.
will.
No, appreciate you. And I'll hang out a little bit and see if anybody has any questions. I think everybody's good. This has been a great session. And we'll definitely get the recording out as well too, and get on my calendar so we can have those conversations and be on the lookout for everything we're looking to roll out with the self-directed IRAs and kind of helping you
Great.
guys get set up. So, all right, y'all have a blessed night. And for those that 8 o'clock tomorrow, we're gonna be talking all things. What am I talking? Dang it, Faye. I forgot. I forgot. Just that fast. I got all this stuff. I know tomorrow night I'm talking Montgomery real estate, and then we have an accredited investor um, webinar with two of the sponsors on Thursday at noon, and tomorrow 8 a.m. for our $1 million morning coffee. We'll be talking about the 50-year mortgage. Have you guys seen that? So I'm gonna be breaking down the 50-year mortgage and just give you my thoughts about the 50-year mortgage, and then also the credit score requirement going away for Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans and what that actually means. And so that's one of the things, like they're rolling out all these different deals. They're not addressing and talking about inflation and why people can't afford to be able to buy real estate. But now they want to give out a 50-year mortgage. They want to lower credit scores where they can increase transactions because it's a drag on the economy. Like there's a lot of jobs tied to real estate transactions. And so as real estate transactions go to 40-year lows, like there's a lot of jobs that are being lost, and it's a drag on the gross domestic product, the GDP. And so they're coming up with creative ways to try to get people to transact to buy these houses, but wages aren't keeping up. And so 50-year mortgages, we'll talk about that in the morning. So tune in. It should be streamed on LinkedIn, YouTube. I'll be breaking down my thoughts on the 50-year mortgage. So make sure you come out for the $1 million coffee hour tomorrow morning, and get on my calendar. And I will see you guys on the next video. And take care.